Hey everybody, Captain Lou here with another edition of Tigers Daily live here on the Fan Arts Network. We'd like to take this moment to ask you to please subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is, of course, Tigers Daily. You get all the updates on the Tigers, the good, the bad, everything in between. We break down the games, we give you the latest rumors, all of that and more by subscribing to our YouTube channel, which is Tigers Daily. We give you our opinions. Should the Tigers be buyers or sellers at the deadline? It's coming up soon as we start today, Monday, July the 13th, about 3 weeks away from the trade deadline. It's going to be quite the interesting period here for the Tigers. We'll talk a little bit about that a little later on. So again, happy Monday, July the 13th, 2026. Happy All-Star break week. The Tigers are off for a few days. I know at the beginning of the week they didn't want this All-Star break to come up, but maybe after losing a couple of tough ones to the Philadelphia Phillies at home, maybe it came at just the right time. The Tigers came into yesterday's game 2.5 games out of a wild card spot, 5.5 games out of first place in the American League Central. They ran into a hot goaltender and, quite frankly, a very pissed off goaltender, starting pitcher. How about that? A hot pitcher and a pissed off pitcher, that being Zach Wheeler. He wanted to go to the All-Star game. Very upset that he wasn't going to be included in that because of the way the Philly rotation is set. The Phillies, in the midst of trying to make the comeback in the National League East, they've picked up a lot of ground on the first place Braves, as they were within 3 games coming into this weekend of the Braves in the NL East under interim manager Don Mattingly. So he wanted his ace going to yesterday, Zach Wheeler. Zach Wheeler, he came out like a man possessed. It was Wheeler against Tariq Skubal. And Wheeler got the upper hand. 6 innings, 10 strikeouts, 2 hits. As he blanked the Tigers, they went on to lose to the Phillies 5-0. 3 innings of hitless relief for the Philly relievers. Detroit had no answer for Zach Wheeler. Wheeler now 10-1. Tariq Skubal, by the way, he went 5 innings, and you could tell he wasn't happy as he didn't come out for that 6th inning. You could tell he was pulled off the mound after the first batter in the 6th. So I don't know, you can read whatever you want into that. He has said that he wants to stay in Detroit for the rest of the year. Quite the quandary that we're going to talk about this week during the All-Star break. The Tigers are in such a unique position, being buyers, maybe being sellers, maybe being whatever, because they still are within 3.5 games of a playoff spot in a very lethargic American League East. But as far as the game went yesterday, just a couple of hits. Riley Green and Zach McKinstry. That's it. That's all they could muster off of Zach Wheeler. And again, we talked about it at the beginning of the homestand. 4-2 was probably at minimum what the Tigers needed to do. Well, they started out hot, sweeping the Athletics in the first 3 games, and of course, winning on Friday night, going away 10-2. So after you do that, you get the first 4. Obviously, you want to get to 5-1 on the homestand to try to stay within 2.5 games of a playoff spot. But again, they ran into a couple of very, very good pitchers on the Phillies. Boy, I'll tell you, they are surging right now. And Zach Wheeler, again, proved why he's one of the best pitchers in all of Major League Baseball. As, again, he only gave up 2 hits for the Tigers. So we look at Tariq Skubal, an interesting case study now. Not pitching as well, maybe as he would like. He's winning games. Obviously, he didn't win yesterday. Wasn't happy coming out when he did. He went right off the mound, went right straight into the locker room. He did not acknowledge the fans, a standing ovation in the 6th inning. Again, read into it what you want. But it's going to be a very interesting thing to keep an eye on as the Tigers move forward after the All-Star break when they start a 6-game road trip. And again, we'll talk about that here a little bit later on in the broadcast. Well, this brings up what we'd like to do now with the All-Star break is let's take a look at the first half. And to say it leaves a lot for the Tigers, they're wanting more, a lot to be desired. It was a very, very, just an up and down is probably the simplest word to call it, or simplest phrase, if you will. The Tigers started out winning a couple of games and dropping 7 in a row. Then they'd win 3. The Tigers had 5 losing streaks of at least 4 games. Of course, they had the 9-game losing streak while Skubal was out, 15-15 before Skubal went out, then went on that ridiculous tailspin of 7-23 Now they're playing good since June 1st. They were going into Saturday's game the best team in Major League Baseball. They've kind of cooled off a little bit, obviously. But when you see the talent and you see what the Tigers had last year, what they did with the playoff berth, there were some expectations. Whether they were realistic or not, they were there for the Tigers. They were there for Scott Harris and, of course, AJ Hinch. Now, you can blame injuries all you want. Everybody's got them. The other players had to pick up the slack. The bats went silent, especially when Scuba went out, and so did the bullpen. So it raises a lot of questions. What are the Tigers going to do at the trade deadline? It's going to be very interesting to see. But that first half, boy, they had flashes. They would do just enough to get your hopes up and then frustrate you with these losing streaks. Losing 3 out of 4 in Houston to the Astros when they were rolling after sweeping the Yankees. It's just, you look at something like that, or, it's just one of those, it really is crazy. It makes you wonder, what is the real Tigers team? Maybe they achieved in the first half last year. Zach McKinstry, Matt Vierling, Will Vest, those players coming crashing down to earth. It's one that you just got to wonder about, and maybe you wonder, maybe we should have called some of the other guys up earlier. Maybe, who knows? I know Detroit's got a lot of players on expiring contracts, arbitration eligible perhaps. But again, more things to think about at the trade deadline. But again, when the Tigers right now 44-52, 6.5 games out of first place in the American League Central, the schedule looks pretty good for the Tigers when they come out of the All-Star break. But boy, this has got to be the time to do it. And it's going to raise some interesting questions with the Tigers. Like I said, we're going to break it down more in the days to come during the All-Star break, but we're going to talk about it here shortly. But my next question to you, with the first half over, the unofficial first half, if you will, with the All-Star break coming up this weekend, again, what's your confidence level with AJ Hinch? I got to be honest with you. Truth be told, the jury's still out with me with him. I get frustrated with him. The first thing I don't understand, the first thing was Jahmai Jones. I don't blame the guy for, if he's going to call on AJ, if AJ's going to call on Jones to hit, I don't blame him for going up there to try to get out of the slump. He just didn't have it. This was Jim Leland and Don Kelly all over again for the Tigers. And again, so now my other question is, why is he pinch hitting for Kerry Carpenter all the time? Why isn't he giving him the opportunity to hit against left-handed pitching? The guy is a home run threat. I know his batting average isn't the greatest, but when you're pinch hitting with guys that are batting worse than him, what's the difference? Why? How does that make sense? And his philosophy with every relief pitcher should be capable of throwing 2 innings. When you got guys like Kenley Jansen, who hadn't thrown 2 innings in over a year, Anderson, you name it. Will Vest, he kept insisting on going with Vest in the 8th inning when he wasn't an 8th inning pitcher this year. AJ Hinch is the smartest person in the room. Sometimes just ask him. Now, he's gotten lucky with some of the call-ups with Malgary and then now with Valencia. But how much is that as AJ Hinch? How much of that is Scott Harris? And especially when you've got some other youngsters down at AAA who should be, maybe getting the call. So I guess that raises my question. What is your confidence level with AJ Hinch? Mine, I'm 50-50 with him at best. I think he's mishandled the bullpen at times for the Tigers. And again, his pinch hitting, again, he's all analytics driven. There's no doubt about it. And he's got a springboard. He's got a safety net, I guess you could call it. He's won a couple of World Series. I get it. He had a loaded team. Now, you can argue whether it was tainted or not with the Astros. I don't know. But I think, it's starting to it's starting to look too Jim Leland-ish for me, where he gets them maybe to the playoffs, but he can't take the next step. Well, it's going to be a very interesting end of the month to look at for the Tigers because there's so many questions. What are they going to do at the deadline? They've got a schedule coming up, and we're going to go over that here in a moment, like I keep promising. But it goes back to, is AJ Hinch going to be the person to take them over the top? I had a feeling they may do something by the 4th of July, but they got hot, And again, with the way the American League is, they're right there. They can make another run. They could still make a run in July, and they could be right there when the dog days really start in the beginning of August. So I'm still lukewarm on AJ Hinch. I think some of the things that he brings to the table, I just think are a little out there. And I don't know. I just don't like how he utilizes the pitching staff. And the last person now that he wants to piss off is Tariq Skubal. And I know he wasn't happy coming off the mound today. I know he given up a couple of runs. Kiter Montero didn't look sharp today. You know, that was the first outing that he's had where he wasn't sharp. So I don't really mind that so much. I mean, you're going to give up runs every once in a while. But some of these other guys that he insists on bringing in, Summers, I've got no confidence in. But, you know, again, we're going to have to ride the rapids with AJ Hinch. I don't think there's going to be a change now until at least the end of the year, if there's a change. But we'll keep an eye on that as well. All right. Finally here today, the first half of the season is over. What's next for the Tigers? Well, if you want to take a look at the schedule they've got left in the second half, it really favors the Tigers. 44-52 now at the All-Star break. 66 games left in the regular season. After the break, they go to Anaheim for 3 games. In my opinion, they're winnable games. No reason they can't take 2 out of 3 with Melton, Skubal, and Mize, their first 3 pitchers. Then they go to Chicago. This is going to be a tough one right here. This right now is the only team that they face the rest of the month with a winning record. So this could be where the Tigers could really make up some ground. They've got Kansas City coming in after that for 4. Then they've got Baltimore coming in for 3. Then they go out west to wherever they're at, the Athletics. I don't know, they're in Vegas? Are they in Sacramento? Are they in Rancho Cucamonga? I don't know. But they end with them in the month of July with 3 games on the road. Then, of course, they've got a big road trip starting with the Athletics. Then they go to Seattle. That's going to be a tough one. Then they finish that one at San Francisco. So this is a chance for the Tigers. This is a big stretch for them where they can still make up some ground. One winning team for the rest of the month of July. So they get at the end of July, they could be within a game or possibly right there in the wild card position. That's the one the Tigers are going to have to keep an eye on. So with that, raises the big question too. What are they going to do? Are they going to sell? Are they going to be buyers? If you'd have told me a month ago they were going to be buyers, I would have said you're crazy. If you'd have told me 2 weeks ago, I'd have said, nah, I don't know. But now, again, you know, I was listening to Steve Phillips from MLB Radio, and he said the same thing. If the Tigers are within 3 to 4 games, they're not going to sell. But here's the problem with that, especially with the guy at the top that everybody wants, Tariq Skubal. If they don't trade him, he could walk in 27, and they get nothing. That's going to be in Scott Harris's in the back of his mind. They're going to have to do something. I would not be opposed with them trading him because his value is going to be there, especially if they win 2 or 3 more of his starts coming up here at the end of the month. That August 3rd deadline is coming. It's going to be here before you know it. And again, that August 3rd deadline, that's a Monday. They just get done playing the Athletics. They're going to be out west. What's going to happen? Will he be traded before that Athletics series? Or anybody else? You know, could a guy like Spencer Torkelson? There's another one that I don't understand with AJ Hinch. Why he won't platoon him. He does it with Carpenter, but he won't do it with Torkelson. I digress. I get it. But a big series. Let's take a quick, again, we look at that series. You got Los Angeles, the Angels for 3, the Cubs for 3. Let's say they go 500, 3-3 in that. Then you've got Kansas City for 4, Baltimore for 3 at home. Then you go to the Athletics. So that's 10 games. 7-3 out of those 10. Let's say the Tigers do that. They're 10-6 in those 16 games. Very doable for the Tigers. They will make up ground if they go 10-6 in that stand before the end of the month. Very doable. That'll put them 4 games under 500. Then they've got Seattle, which is going to be tough, and then a road trip with still the end of the road trip at San Francisco before Cleveland comes to town. But just concentrating on July. very, very winnable games coming up. We'll see how good they are. If they're rolling in, as I mentioned, to the Athletics series in playoff contention a couple of games out, that's when it's really going to get ratcheted up, and I can't wait for it. All right, well, that's going to do it for this edition of Tigers Daily. What do you think? Leave us a comment. We'll talk about it tomorrow. What do you think the Tigers are going to do at the deadline? Are they going to be buyers? Are they going to be sellers? What's your confidence level in AJ Hinch? That and a whole lot more. We want to thank those that have commented. And again, we invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is Tigers Daily. And you get all of the news, all the rumors. We go back and forth with it. For those of you that have subscribed, I say thank you very much. And for those of you that are watching us, however you're watching us, on your iPhone, your laptop, your computer, your television screen, thank you for watching us here on Tigers Daily. Until tomorrow, Captain Lou saying keep your heads up, keep your sticks down, keep your feet moving, and as always, keep your minds open. So long.